life in order to survive, I guess, in the world and find some temporary relief. But the first thing that chanting does is it starts to clear these bad qualities, these bad lower nature that we have. So this is anartha. And the second thing that's covering us is something in Sanskrit called upadhis. And upadhis basically means false identities or designations. So as we walk through this world, we start to pick up all of these artificial identities. And it begins with, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm Indian, I'm English, I'm French, and then it could be your job or your interests, and we tend to identify ourselves in many ways, external ways, and that's the identity that we take on. But what chanting does is it helps us to realize that we're beyond all of those identities and we exist as spiritual beings, separate from this temporary chapter of life. So by chanting, basically, when the false designations and the lower qualities crumble away, then what we're left with is actually who we are, pure consciousness. And when we awaken that consciousness, it brings us into contact with the divine, and it allows us to experience who we really are. So that's basically what chanting is. It's a cleansing of the consciousness. If you imagine, it's like right now between us and the spiritual reality, there's a huge wall which is blocking us from seeing that spiritual reality. This we can say is the wall of false ego or false identity. And so what you do when you're chanting every single day is like you're taking one brick out of that wall. When you take one brick out of that wall, you get a glimpse of what's kind of on the other side. You can't see fully. And then the next day you chant and you take another brick out, and then you take another brick out, and you're getting more and more of a glimpse. But it's said that one day when you've taken enough bricks out of that wall of false ego by regularly chanting, then the wall actually just comes crashing down. And then you come face to face and really understand in a much deeper way what that spiritual reality is. So therefore, it's recommended to chant every single day if you can. And the essence of it is just to hear the mantra. Just the sound vibration is very, very powerful, very, very purifying. And if you can, the best time to do it is the early morning. We were talking about this yesterday as well. And if you can do it in a place which is quiet, in a place which is fresh and bright, and if you can do it at a time when you're not doing anything else, give your full attention, your full focus, your full absorption, give it the full priority. And if you can begin by doing that in a very focused way for 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, or what we call one round of the beads, then that's very nice. And then over time, as you develop more of a connection with the process, you can do more rounds, and in this way you'll feel more and more connected as you chant the mantra. So those are just some introductory words. Does anyone have any questions or anything you'd like to ask about the chanting, or anything that you may find difficult or an obstacle, or
yes? I'm quite new to the mantra practice, and I'm wondering that repeating them mentally as well during the day, does that have any effect, putting your consciousness on it?
Thank you for raising that. It's said that there are 3 types of chanting. One is called manasa, another one is called vachika, and another one is called upamsu. So the manasa means, or let me start with the other one. Vachika means to chant loud. later on you'll see we can get quite loud as well. So sometimes we sing the mantra, we sing loud, like so that has a certain effect. And then it said upamshu is just to chant it loud enough so you can hear it, like a whisper. So that's what we do when we chant japa. And then the third type is actually manasa, which means in the mind. And it said that yes, even in the mind, it's very, very powerful as well. But the reason we tend to do it with some kind of audible, with the audible hearing is so that it helps us to focus more. When it's only in the mind, sometimes we can also waver a little bit. But when you become more accomplished, even in the mind, constantly people are chanting, and that helps to stay focused as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any rules of chanting, things to take care of while chanting?
Yeah, it said that there are things to avoid when you're chanting, and there is a kind of a long list of things to avoid. But the essential thing that's said to be the root cause of all other problems or all other blocks in chanting is when we chant without attention. So it said that if we try to be focused on being very attentive to the sound of the mantra, being very attentive to the meaning of the mantra. Let me just say what the meaning of the mantra is, because what does that actually mean? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. It can have multiple meanings, but the kind of basic meaning and most fundamental meaning is it's a call of the soul wanting to connect with the Supreme Soul. And so the way that Srila Prabhupada, our teacher, he describes it is that it's the calling, like the calling of a baby crying for the mother. And that's very graphic and very clear, that when we're chanting, we're trying to do it in that kind of mood of a baby calling to have the shelter and the protection and the connection again with the mother. Like that. So when we're chanting, the most important thing is to be attentive. Attentive to the sound, attentive to the meaning, attentive to the personality who you're trying to connect to. And if you stay attentive and not allow the mind to wander and not allow yourself to be diverted by other thoughts, desires, worries, then by staying attentive, it said that all purposes are achieved. So yes, that's the main thing. Be attentive. Which is the hardest thing as well.
Maharaj, which is better between Vajraka and Upanshu?
Both are good. Of course, as our daily practice, we do the Upanshu because we're not able to always chant loudly in the association of others for an extended period of time on a day-to-day basis. We may be living at home, or we may be here or there, and therefore as our daily chanting, we do the on the beads, the whispering, because we can do that anywhere, in any situation, even alone. And that's why that's something that we take a vow to do every day. However, the chanting in congregation and the singing actually is said to create a very, very special energy. And whenever one has the opportunity to do that, one should take advantage. Because when we chant together, let's say for example, like if you want to, say for example, like Caroline works for the UN, so imagine there's some kind of injustice in the world and we want to write a petition to a government in order to make a change. Then what makes the petition powerful? If you have more numbers, and there's one other thing which makes the petition more powerful. What was the other thing?
One message. One message?
One message, yeah. But if you have many signatures, and if some of the signatures are like powerful people, right? So when you have more people on the petition and powerful people on the petition, then the government's like, okay, we have to pay attention. So Krishna, sometimes when we go before Krishna, we may not have so much, so like, but when we're in a room with many others and also many other sincere practitioners, then by being with them, it almost creates a divine presence and a divine attention, a divine attraction. And that's why chanting together is very powerful. So both are very good. So do both. The second one, like the together, is more. Sometimes it's more difficult, especially if you're living outside. You don't live in a temple. So then at least every day you can do the job.
In the beginning, in the first temple, Srila Prabhupada, he trained his devotees by chanting and by having them chant together. And I was just wondering if you could try one a little bit that. So Vajika, but this.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I don't know if
You
you
could do that in unison.
And then you could see after that what questions come from that. Or
So shall we do one round like that together and then just stop and then see how everyone feels? Yeah.